I mean, I feel like to start, we should probably just, take a look at this actual article.
The Wired piece.
Yeah, the Wired article from Miss Taylor Lorenz, who's been just absolutely kicking ass, bro, just pissing off all the right people, all the worst people, all the, shills and the creatures of the Democratic swamp. It's been genuinely glorious to watch. And even though Zach and I have taken a couple days off, we were on a Lay show yesterday, but we've kind of just been laying low, monitoring the situation, eager to talk about it, but definitely enjoying the blow up that's occurred online, specifically since this article dropped, which is called "A Dark Money Group is Secretly Funding High-Profile Democratic Influencers. An initiative aimed at boosting Democrats online offers influencers up to $8,000 a month." That's almost $10,000 a month, guys, to push the party line. All they have to do is keep it secret and agree to restrictions on their content. So, we don't have to go through the whole article. I'm sure a lot of people, Zach, are more than familiar with the details here. We're going to be getting into some of the responses, both from the people that are exposed and some other colleagues of ours in progressive media who, like us, are actually independent. But yeah, this just inspired such a shit show. And I think what's most telling about this is that, as I said on Olay's show, I don't think it's particularly unexpected to someone like me or you, Zach. We've been joking for a while about how guys like David Pakman are the most obvious paid shills ever. Clearly they're taking money from someone, even if it is just a bunch of corporate sponsorships. Like, clearly that's why they are in this game, not because they really care that much about anything other than getting those sponsorships and making that money. That's why they make the most bland, inoffensive content ever, just to cater to people in a liberal echo chamber. It's not meant to change people's minds. No, it's meant to, reinforce the beliefs of people that are already in that liberal echo chamber and make them feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing something good by watching fucking David Pakman or Olivia Giuliani or whatever, right? So that's the point. And it's not shocking to me that a lot of these people were exposed at all. Like I said, it's far from unexpected. Almost everyone on this list that was exposed, I could have told you, yeah, this person's 100% a shill. This person is literally a propagandist. They're not an independent thinker. They're not a real analyst or commentator. No, they're a fucking propagandist, which they should be honest about instead of masquerading as an independent media figure. So that's my opinion. But Zach, what I think is really funny about this, again, it's not even the information that was exposed, information that we could have told you. It's the fucking reaction, bro, the shit show, the freak out from basically everyone in this article that was exposed, but also a lot of the people in that orbit. The way they reacted to this, you would have thought that Taylor Lorenz had published, nude photos of their children or something. They're like freaking out, full panic mode, getting so defensive. And it's just like, geez, guys, you're really kind of, showing your ass here.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. So to take a few of those things at a time, one of the big things about this is not so much that people were getting paid, right? Lots of people get paid to do this. But if you read that second portion right there, it says all they have to do is keep it a secret, right? And agree to restrictions behind their content. And I think that's the first and most important thing to just kind of harp on, right? The fact that this was intentionally done behind the scenes, right? This was intentionally done to create the impression that these people were organically coming to these conclusions, right? The idea being that, oh, it's cool to be a Democrat. I hadn't heard of 90%, 95% of the content creators that were implicated in this. I'm familiar with Tyler Cohen. I'm familiar with David Pakman, but it's a short list, right? This has a lot of overlap, though, with a beat that we normally follow, right? If you guys have watched the Vanguard for a long time, you guys know, one, we do not take any corporate dollars. We do not read a single advertisement. We are 100% fan funded. We've never negotiated with any of these kinds of corrupt organizations, and we never would do that, right? But you look at this here, and a bunch of the people that are here, you would kind of just I don't know, never really come into contact with unless you were on TikTok or maybe already in this like weird Democratic machine, but they don't want people to know that they're from a weird Democratic machine. They just want to give the illusion. They want you to have the impression that this is just a random TikToker that came to this position. Like, Joe Biden's really cool, man. Kamala Harris just gets me. Wow, I wish I had a stepmom like Kamala. What do you think that would be like? Oh my God, they're just so cool and young. Donald Trump is so old and gross. They want you to think that that's just like, an organic lane in TikTok. That's why it has to be covert. And that was the first red flag to me. The other thing being what you've highlighted here, that,
These are just a list of the influencers.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought that this was going to go on down to something different relating to Gaza. But the other big red flag that I noticed was all of the people that I was familiar with never talked about Palestine or Israel in the build up to the 2025 or 2024 election.
No, fuck no. Their whole point of these creators was for the, so that their audience watching them would think, oh, I guess Gaza's not even that big of a deal, because these people don't really talk about it very much. And these are the ones that are getting exclusively floated and artificially pushed by this $8,000 a month program, which also included all of these weird networking sessions and like training sessions, check-ins, to make sure that everyone was on the same fucking page. Because again, as I said earlier, these people are propagandists. It's time that we just be honest about that, Zach. David Pakman is literally not a commentator. He's not an analyst. He's not an opinion editorialist. He's a fucking propagandist. Same goes with everyone else on this list. David Pakman is admittedly the one that I'm most familiar with because he was a mainstay of like Bernie Bro YouTube. He was one of the OG progressive tubers back in the day. I used to enjoy David Pakman's content back in 2015, 2016, when he was more of a radical anti-establishment Bernie bro. But very quickly after the 2016 election, it became clear the direction Pakman was going in. And that was the direction that would most enrich him. The one that would get him access to almost 10 grand a month from this organization, in addition to a shit ton of other sponsorships, some of which we've, criticized Pakman for taking in the past, like, for example, crypto stuff. But again, it's time to be honest about who these people are. And specifically as a podcast that is 100% independent, we pride ourselves on that, as you guys know. And we do genuinely consider ourselves an alternative to corporate media, an alternative to establishment media. Yeah, that's something we're fucking proud of. And it does piss me off to see all these phonies and fakes pretending to also be independent creators, journalists, reporters, whatever, when in reality they are just propagandists. And Zach, not even good propagandists. That's what I find to be crazy about all of this. Do you really think that any of these people contributed to the Democrats performing well in the last election? Not that they did perform well, but are we really supposed to believe that, oh yeah, Kamala would have lost by even more if it weren't for the efforts of fucking David Pakman and Olivia Juliana, who are some of the most cringy, just lame, most uninteresting people. Like if I was just a normie who was apolitical, who didn't know a goddamn thing about politics, and who frankly didn't care that much about social issues or whatever, and I just started scrolling my fucking TikTok one day, and all of a sudden I'm being subjected to Olivia Juliana and David Pakman, that might turn me into a fucking Republican. Just because of the aversion to their smug attitudes, to their annoying, basic, bland talking points. Like, I genuinely have the opinion that the majority of normies, the majority of independents will be turned off of this content, that it will actually have the opposite effect that it's supposed to, which is theoretically to push public opinion to the left, towards the Democratic Party side. I genuinely think it's counterproductive. Maybe if they were funding good content creators who were actual naturals and who had charisma and were good communicators, that might be one thing. But I genuinely think this is counterproductive. I think this actually hurts the left. I think this hurts the Democratic Party. And as much as we criticize the Democratic Party, don't get me wrong, I want the Democrats to win. As much as I criticize them, that's why I fucking criticize them. Because I believe that constructive criticism is what makes a movement stronger. That's what makes a political party stronger. Not an endless feedback loop of sycophantic fucking praise and propaganda.
Well, 100%. And I think the reality is that two people who do this, I would say relatively professionally, right? It is our only source of income and it is our jobs. We cover online political media. That is our beat, right? Particularly online left political media, right? That is what we spend day in and day out covering. And I hadn't heard of 95% of these assholes, right? So how effective could it be? I do not go out of my way to conservative media outside of the PBD podcast when we want to get a laugh. Maybe I'll check out Nick Fuentes for the show, right? But I am familiar with a lot of these assholes. If you bring up their names, if you show me their faces, people.
You knew Olivia, right? I used to joke about her on Circle Jerk with Griffin a lot.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that would have just been like a passing amorphous liberal to me. I wouldn't have put a name to the face, but I'm sure if you showed me her
spoke
picture.
at the DNC too.
Gotcha. Yeah, there are some people whose pictures have come up in headlines and whatnot that I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen you around, but I don't know who they are. I certainly don't know them like I know who Tim Pool is. I certainly don't know them like I know who Candace Owens is. I certainly don't know them like I know who Nick Fuentes is, right? All these really bad, odious fuckers from the right, but who have a real, authentic following, so people do know who they are. There's no way to argue that this was effective. And when it comes down to, oh, we need to fund left-wing media, we need to fund the real stuff that people like, that's not what they're doing, right? What we have as a ginormous problem, this big hill that we have to overcome as Democrats, is there is a disalignment, right? There's a huge gap between where the base is and where leadership is, right? So that's why they decided to give a fuckload of people $8,000 a month, right? That's like the entire monthly operating revenue of the Vanguard, okay, guys? It's an insane amount of money, okay? So they're giving people that money. Why? So that they can create the illusion that there is not that gap between the base and where the leadership is, right? That they want to pretend that the electorate is right where the leadership is. So they want you to be fooled that the economy was going great when Joe Biden was president. They want you to be fooled that Joe Biden's really taking care of it and it's a really tough situation and we have to support our ally Israel. They want you to be fooled into thinking that the climate change is being addressed, right? Joe Biden went through it for a time. There was a real effort to be like, oh, we're really doing something about climate change. It was a total hoax, guys, right? The real electorate, the real base of voters, they knew that wasn't happening, right? But the Democratic Party, the leadership, the establishment, the people with that dark money wanted to create the illusion that there were a bunch of people like you, like me and Gavin, who were organically enthused by the message of the Democrats. And since that wasn't there, since it was all AstroTurf, there was nobody to show up on election day, right? Because they didn't listen to their base and say, you know what, guys? Kamala doesn't have to promise a solution on day one, but she does have to make it clear she will be breaking course with Joe Biden when it comes to Palestine. We will not be funding defensive weapons to Israel if Kamala Harris is president, right? We are going to make sure grocery prices come down if Kamala Harris is president. We are going to find a path to amnesty for immigrants if Kamala Harris is president, right? These are real alternatives that the American people were after. This is Kamala Harris's plan to raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour. She could have done these things that real grassroots folks, whether they're loudmouths like us, whether they're activists, whether they're journalists, they were saying this is what the American people really want from you. If they were to have delivered that instead, we would not have Donald Trump as our president, right? So the reason Gavin and I are so worked up about this is not just because we think it's a moral problem. I think it's wrong to lie to your audience and accept money that is going to influence your belief system. And don't kid yourself. David Pakman has had his belief system influenced. Gavin shocked me. He shocked me when he told me that David Pakman supported Bernie Sanders, not just a little bit in 2016, but enthusiastically in 2016. Right now, he's taken all this sponsorship money. He's taken his chorus money. He has 17 sponsors listed on his website. We could throw it up right here. All right. It's not like he needed the money, but he wanted more money. He wanted that extra $8,000, and it clearly perverted his politics over time. He's not talking about Medicare for all anymore. He's not talking about a Green New Deal anymore. He's not talking about a jobs guarantee, UBI. He's talking about how cool and great the Democrats are. All right, that's the job that he wanted, and it created the illusion to the American people that, I guess the Democrats aren't changing anything, right? Or not the illusion to the American people. That's what the message people got, while giving the illusion to people who were following it that this was popular.
100%, bro. 100%. And that's such a damning screenshot. All the fucking big money, the corporate money, that's infiltrated the David Pakman show and turned it into a fucking cringy, boring husk of what it once was. And that's the problem, bro. It's the corporatization of this independent space. It's the gentrification of this independent space. I've seen it happen on YouTube before, with a lot of other really good spaces. There was once a really vibrant and flourishing movie YouTube space. If you guys remember back in the day, there was actually all these channels that would make content about like the new upcoming Star Wars movies and the new upcoming Marvel movies. And it was actually a really fun community of honest people sharing their criticisms as fans. And then guess what happened around the time that Disney bought up Lucasfilm? Disney started paying a bunch of YouTube influencers to churn out pro-Disney content. So again, this is a slightly different lane. We're talking about, movie YouTube instead of politics, but the exact same thing can happen. Now we look at the exact same space and it seems totally hollowed out. And for one, it's been taken over by anti-woke assholes. But also, a huge part of the reason why that lane was created was because that genuinely authentic, fan-created, fan-oriented space turned in to a fucking cesspool of corporate slop that was pretending to be fan content. All these channels, some of which used to be good commentators, started taking the Disney dollars, and they started, lying to their audience about the quality of these new projects and getting excited about them, even though the actual fans weren't. It destroyed the space. And that's what I don't want to see happen to, the online left independent ecosystem. I want us to remain actually pure, honest, genuine people, because again, that's what's actually appealing to folks. And I think that in that vein, we need to talk more about this, Zach. We can watch some of his response here, in a second. But let me try to find the actual tweet from Brian Tyler Cohen. Yeah, I got it right here, because Brian Tyler Cohen is the one that's behind all of this. I think he has a co-founder of Chorus, but he's the one who founded Chorus.
Mm-hmm.
And more people need to be thinking about this, guys. I'm not trying to sound too conspiratorial here, but where's Brian Tyler Cohen from? He's from MSNBC. That's the world he comes from. Corporate, Democratic establishment media. Are you really supposed to tell me that this is anything other than an attempt to infiltrate left-wing independent media and turn it into establishment corporate Democrat propaganda? Is that not exactly what's fucking happening? It clearly is. It clearly fucking is. This guy is controlled opposition. He's on a mission to destroy the space, to weed out all the actual truth tellers, the radicals, and to elevate a bunch of propagandists at their expense. This guy wants to destroy the space that we love, the space that we exist in, the only fucking place left on the internet where people can actually come to find honest opinion commentary and truth about the reality of the Democratic Party, and specifically its role in an ongoing fucking genocide, which these people will happily have you forget about.
So important that you said that. And we've even had multiple commenters in chat say, what does independent media even mean anymore? The name independent media is meaningless now. And that is the entire goal. And it's something we've been talking about for a long time. It's something that we've been talking about since Joe Rogan took $100 million from Spotify. This is a beat we've been on for a long time, guys. So if I seem a little flustered, if I seem a little emotional, it's because we really care about this. We have put our money where our mouth is. Gavin and I have said no to tons of money. We've put ourselves in real financial jeopardy. Right after we signed a lease on a huge house, we said, fuck you to the people that were trying to pay us money. And we lost a bunch of money and our whole audience, and we had to rebuild from scrap. We've been through this, and we always did it with a clean conscience. So you might be like, why are you guys being so tough? Or you guys are being unreasonable. At least we walk the walk, because when Gavin and I first came into independent media, I was watching it later than Gavin, right? Like I got into this a little bit later. I really would credit my following to YouTube from, for like a political media perspective, was I went from being an audio Rogan listener every single day when I was like driving my pizza delivery vehicle around town, right? And Kyle Kulinski went on, and I was like, oh, I've heard this guy a few times. Gavin sent me Kyle Kulinski videos before. Like, I'm familiar with this dude. And boom, then I get plugged into that. And I'd already started watching TMBS in the very early stages of it. And I became a fucking consumer, right? I was very plugged into that. Well, one of the principles that listening to Kyle Kulinski really instilled in me, man. I got to give it up to Kyle. He is the guy that made me fucking feel this way and believe in this. And I'm never going to fold on it, because it would feel like folding to Kyle. And he was the guy that inspired me to do this fucking shit. Right. And he said, listen, guys, if you listen to me talk, you are always getting 100% Kyle. I'm not selling out to Big Seltzer, right? People would make jokes. They'd be like, Kyle sold out to Big Seltzer because he would drink seltzer water, and he would never read an ad. He would never dream of it. This guy's left hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, on the fucking table because he refuses to do any of this shit, right? Because he has integrity. Because Kyle is the real fucking deal. So is his wife, Crystal Ball. Crystal Ball was getting paid by Next Star Media, okay, at the Hills Rising. It's a corporate media outlet. People were calling them independent media. That made them feel bad. That made them feel guilty, right? Because people like Kyle were real independent media. They were just cosplaying as it. Let's be real. They gave the veneer of independent media, but they were corporate media, right? And so they quit it all and they built Breaking Points. And then they were like, hey, Ryan, why don't you come and work with us? And unfortunately, they brought Emily Jasinski too, but you can't win them all. And they built something truly from the ground up, right? They said, we're going to do this for real ass independent, right? That is the ethos that you have to have if you're going to do this. And it used to be the standard. It used to be the benchmark. It used to be like, if you're on the left, you're not going to read an ad. And that is the punk rock hard line that the Vanguard wants to hold on to, because otherwise you fall into this gray area where people start to eat away at your lane. It becomes corporate. It becomes insincere. It becomes fake and astroturf. And that's what guys like Brian Tyler Cohen are trying to do. You're 100% right. He's from MSNBC, and they're trying to do the same shit that they did to right-wing media already, which they were like, we're going to vacuum you guys up and we're going to have you cosplay as independent media, even though you're just walking Donald Trump's party line for the most part, right? That's what they're going to do. You're going to say whatever it takes to get Donald Trump elected, right? Yes, yes, yes. Just give me the fucking money. That's what's happening on the left now. And we have to be honest and call it out on both sides, because if we want to have a real, authentic left-wing media space preserved, you have to hold the line on this.
100%, 100%. And to anyone in chat that wants to say like, oh, you guys just don't want the Democrats to win. You guys just don't want the Democrats to win. You're just, being holier than thou so you can preserve your punk rock bullshit ethos and pretend to be better than everyone. Bullshit. Like I said, I actually do fucking want Democrats to win, despite their complicity in the genocide and a lot of other shit that I obviously don't fuck with. Yeah, no, I actually do, cards on the table, want the Democrats to win. But explain to me, defenders, anyone who thinks this is defensible, explain to me how it was at all helpful to the Democrats or to the movement to have this army of NPC fucking shit libs like Brian Tyler Cohen and David Pakman and fucking Olivia Giuliani. How is it fucking helpful to the Democrats to have that fucking army out there trying to convince everyone that actually Joe Biden is fine? Joe Biden should be the candidate. There's nothing to see here. We should all get behind him. Was that helpful to the Democratic Party? No. It fucking massively contributed to the Democratic Party's loss, to run that kind of propaganda, to try to gaslight the American people and the electorate in that way. It absolutely turned a shit ton of people off. And again, constructive criticism is actually what makes the party better, something you very rarely see from any of these characters whose job it literally is to just do propaganda, sometimes even more shamelessly than the kind of propaganda you see on MSNBC. Some of these people literally are more of propagandists than their fucking propaganda counterparts on cable. But Zach, do you want to take a look at some of what Brian had to say in response to all this?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, because we do want to be fair. And like I said, Brian is the co-founder, co-creator, whatever the fuck, of Chorus. So let's hear his response to this article and evaluate some of his, pushback.
At the risk of giving an internet troll more attention, I want to address a piece that Taylor Lorenz wrote yesterday for Wired. An initiative aimed at boosting Democrats online offers influencers up to $8,000 a month to push the party line. All they have to do is keep it secret and agree to restrictions on their content. Literally nothing in this statement is true. The article is about Chorus, which is a nonprofit that I helped found to build up a creator ecosystem, which everybody says they want, but few are doing. So here's what Chorus is.
LOL.
Brian, Wired is a reputable major news outlet. If nothing that they said in that article is true, you would be mounting a lawsuit against them immediately. Gavin, have you heard any news about any of these folks from Chorus mounting a lawsuit against Taylor Lorenz or Wired?
Fuck no.
Wow. That means they must not feel like they have a very strong case.
Also, I love how he says, people always say they want a left-wing creator ecosystem, but now that I've actually done it, everyone's pissed off. What am I supposed to do? It's like, this is such a straw man, bro. No, what you did is not create a creator fucking ecosystem. What you did is create a fucking propaganda funnel to create a bunch of little mini shitlib cable news hosts on YouTube, infiltrate what wasn't actually honest and independent space and take it over and turn it into corporate fucking pro DNC slop. That's not the same thing as creating a fucking network. You didn't invite any actual left-wing voices to be a part of this. No, it's not an actual network. It's your little fucking club of people that you're paying $10,000 a month to become so out of touch with your average American that they won't know any better than to simp for the fucking politicians your average American hates.
Yep, 100%.
It is a scholarship program to teach creators how to grow their accounts, foster engagement.
And also, I'm sorry to pause it again, but it's a scholarship program to help grow your account. Bro, David Pakman has been around for like fucking over 10 years. He has like 1 million subscribers. I don't think David Pakman needs your shitty fucking help to grow his channel.
Oh, 100%. And actually, I'll throw this tweet up from Matt Leck, good friend of the show. Shout out to the homie Matt, who also came correct as fuck on this issue. He said, it is such a fucking gross bastardization of language to suggest that David Pakman needs scholarship. He said, spare me, please, the quote, knife to a gunfight stuff. If these 77% of Democrats were reflected in the views of 50% of Chorus incubation bucks recipients, this would be as ho-hum as they wish it was. Instead, people see it as an echo chamber maintenance for a historically unpopular party, which is exactly what it is.
Yup.
launch their own shows, and become profitable on their own. It's an incubator program to build the pro-democracy ecosystem. Influencers and creators have never been more important when it comes to how Americans are consuming their news. The right has been doing this for years, and the left needs to catch up. That's why we're doing this with Chorus. So let's talk about what Chorus is and what it's not. Chorus does not pay creators for content, does not tell them what to say, it does not control who they talk to or work with, and there is absolutely nothing in the contract that could even be reasonably interpreted to say that we do. Period. Full stop. I don't know a single creator who would willfully sign up for a program that would tell them what they can or can't say. That's not what this program is. We pay people to show up to workshops and technical trainings to optimize their content online. For example, we've got trainings on how to package content for YouTube, trainings on how to optimize audience retention for Instagram and TikTok, trainings on how to form an LLC. Again, there are zero restrictions on their content. And by the way, the program works. In just 2 months, our cohort has added a combined
Nobody knows any of these people, bro, so it's not working. Like, anybody in chat who wants to have a knee-jerk reaction to defend this, any of these new content creators that they've been elevating, you've never heard of, and they have never once reached out to any of the people that you watch. Lance from the Surfs isn't getting hit up by these people. Francesca's not being hit up by these people. People who have gone out on a limb to take a bold progressive stance and lost their job have not been supported by these people. Why? Because they're going to challenge the Democrats, right? Why do you think Tyler Cohen wasn't rushing to give Francesca Fiorentini a scholarship of $8,000 a month to help her weather the storm after she correctly called out the abuses of her boss, right? Oh, yes, you actually did abuse your power when you undermined this union. Oh, hey, dude, you actually are being really nasty, right? You are hurtful, right? And not only that, you've thrown trans people under the bus, which I find unacceptable, right? There was none of that. No effort to reach out to her, right? I haven't seen them reach out to anybody that I've ever fucking known. And I do this for a living. Why? Because the people that Gavin and I know actually believe what they say. They're not sticking their finger in there, waiting for the wind to blow. Okay. And that's the kind of person that they want. Somebody that they can take the money away from and have it actually stink. And I want to throw up this post from David Sirota because I think it really influences or illustrates, how this works, right? And he said, I was offered once a lot of money to launch a media outlet funded by big liberal donors. It would have set me and my family up for a long time. But the conditions were that none of the resources could ever be used to criticize an elected Democrat. I turned down the offer because I knew I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I took the deal. But it's a reminder of the unseen forces at play on both sides of political media. And the reality is that nobody is going to give you money for free, bro. Nobody's going to cut you a check for $8,000 a month with zero expectations. That's just not how the world works. When in your life, any of you have people offered you even $500 to just do what you're doing, bro? Hey, man. Gavin, you're a super cool guy. I think you should keep doing what you're doing. Here's $500 a month just because I love you, dude. Just because it's a scholarship, bro, because you're already doing exactly what I... No, that doesn't happen.
I mean,
right?
To be fair, sometimes what you will come across is like one person who's like really rich and they really want to fund a cause. Sometimes you will see people like that say, hey, I'm going to donate some money to this channel. I'm going to donate some money to this contributor with no strings attached. I think that's a little bit different, though, than signing up to be part of this cohort, which is being funded by dark money from a PAC that no one knows where the fucking, funders are. Right. That's a little bit different. I do think there have been instances where, individual wealthy people have said like, hey, here's $500 because I remember when Susan Sarandon,
she gave us $100 a month. That's far cry from 8,000.
Well, you said 500. I was just saying.
Well,
like,
I was making a number for people who aren't in media. Right. Because like, you know what I mean? That like $8,000 is like life-changing.
Right. $8,000. You're 100% right. No one gets that without strings attached. 100%. And also the other thing is like, Brian Tyler Cohen's like, we don't tell them what to say. And it's like, yeah, that's because you only invite people to be part of Chorus that you already know what they're going to say. You only hire talent that is extremely controllable and is extremely obvious where their real hearts lie, which is just to be fucking DNC shills. All the people that are part of this, none of them are truth tellers. You're right, Zach. They didn't hit up Francesca. It's not like they hit up Katie Halper after she got fired from The Hill for speaking on Israel and calling it a genocide and an apartheid. Literally none of the people that are in this cohort are outspoken or honest about Palestine. Like, I'm not saying they've never brought it up. I'm sure that it gets brought up and they're like, oh, I'm against it because Donald Trump is doing it now instead of Joe Biden. But
where
none
was
of
that in 2024?
Exactly. But all these people were fucking keeping their mouths goddamn shut about it when Joe Biden was in charge of the genocide, because that was supposedly in the best interest of the party propaganda, which, like I said, it wasn't. Constructive criticism is what's actually in the interest of the party. And as far as like appealing to more people, yeah, you actually have to face those issues head on and deal with them and hash them out and say, no, this is not the way to go. I personally know Democrats in my life who did not vote for Kamala Harris solely because of the genocide, solely because of Joe Biden's role in that atrocity. And I'm not talking about people that are super online. I'm talking about just people in my life, family members, stuff like this. This is a huge issue. And again, to act like the solution to that is just to gaslight everyone, to fund people who are just going to ignore it instead of facing it head on and saying, actually, no, maybe the Democrats should be on the right side of fucking history. Maybe we should actually be an anti-war party because that's why people vote for us. Channels like us were saying that. Channels like Hassan Piker were saying that. Channels like The Majority Report, channels like Katie Halper, Francesca Fiorentini, the list goes on and on. Obviously, none of those people were hit up by Chorus because the whole point of Chorus is to infiltrate this movement and elevate liars and propagandists at the expense of honest truth tellers and real journalists.
100%.
6 million followers, that's not including me, and seen their views and engagement grow. That is the point of the program, to teach creators how to be effective with whatever messages they want to promote. And with regard to keeping it a secret, there is a standard confidentiality clause in the contract to protect the privacy of the creators. On the literal first day of the program, it was made clear to all of the creators in our kickoff session that they were absolutely free to talk about Chorus. And we immediately followed up to confirm that in writing.
But they didn't, right? Oh, well, there was a little bit that said, don't talk about this. Oh, but it was to protect the creators. Oh, it's to protect the creators, right? They had every opportunity to come out and tell their audience, but none of them did. Oh, they all decided to keep it a secret because it's a horrible look to take a bunch of dark money, dude. And again, to go back to the point we've been hammering at, you can cite 6 million views, 1 million subscribers, all kinds of metrics, right? That don't actually turn into anything tangible, right? What happened? Donald Trump won by more than last time. The Democrats lost a bunch of ground. People like Tyler Cohen, we're talking about how Biden was in great shape up until the fucking final moments where they had to pull it out. I mean, it was rare to have people like me and Gavin coming out here being like, dude, this is fucked up. This is so bad. He is going to get curb stomped. He's going to get annihilated. It's going to be ugly. All of the other people were gaslighting everybody in their audience into oblivion. They were like, oh, Dark Brandon, he's going to do it, bro. Don't even worry about it. After January 6th, nobody will vote for Donald Trump, right? Fucking crazy.
100%. And by the way, get this piece of shit, Tyler Cohen. Guess what he does when he has the opportunity to actually interview like Hakeem Jeffries or whatever? He asks no fucking tough questions. He sits there and just fucking access journalism, nothing of value, no constructive criticism, not even in a fucking attempt to push the party in the correct direction. I'm not saying every interview with the likes of I'm not saying you had to go full Adam Friedland, but at least ask some fucking tough questions if you're going to put yourself in this position to have access to these people, something he routinely does not fucking do. And then other people in this cohort, went to take photos with Joe Biden right as Joe Biden was on his way out.
Went to his Christmas party.
Exactly. Yeah, we have that iconic photo of, David Pakman shaking hands with Joe Biden. That's the point of this. You get close to power, not to challenge them, but to shake their fucking hand and congratulate them on committing a genocide. That's the fucking point of this. It's absolutely disgusting to act like it's in any way helpful. Again, even if your goal is getting more Democrats elected, because they're literally doing propaganda for the least popular fucking Democrats. And forget Joe Biden, forget Kamala Harris. Let's think in the future, Zach. Say this cohort group is still around and better funded than ever. Come 2026, 2027. What kind of candidates do you think the Chorus cohort will be supporting? What kind of candidate in the Democratic primary, assuming there fucking is one, what kind of candidate do you think these idiots are going to be supporting?
AOC.
It's not going to be AOC. It's not going to be a Zoran type, upstart fucking, corporate free grassroots progressive. No, it's going to be Gavin fucking Newsom. It's going to be, whatever the, main shit lib is. And their whole fucking role will be to crush the progressive insurgency, to crush the energy that Zoran created, and that hope and that possibility that maybe the progressives could actually, take back over the Democratic Party for the people. These fucking people will 100% be the Democratic Party's army out on YouTube to crush people like us who are actually advocating for a better future and for a Democratic Party that can successfully take on and defeat this fascist threat that is MAGA and Donald Trump.
Yep, 100%.
Let's take a little bit more of this in because he's about to smear Taylor Lorenz in a second here. Obviously, Taylor did the original reporting. So it's important to hear the smear of Taylor because then we're going to, check out her response and, her totally debunking this line of garbage that is now, what they're all weaponizing against her.
Creators have videos about Chorus. They've got donation links to Chorus in their bios. I myself have made videos that were posted all over the internet about Chorus that reached hundreds of thousands of people. It is not a secret.
Also, bitch, it's not a fucking secret. Admittedly, yes, a lot of these content creators have posted about Chorus. They were like, check it out. This is this Chorus thing. There was a fucking article in the New York Times or something about it. What was hidden was the money they were receiving. What they were not allowed to disclose was the $8,000 a month. So this is total gaslighting, saying, what do you mean it was secret? Here's a video about it. Here's an article about it. Yeah, guess what was not mentioned by any of the creators, even the ones that promoted those articles? That they were getting paid $8,000 a month. That's what was being kept secret.
Yep.
And it never was. There's the implication in the article that this is some arm of the DNC or the Democratic Party. We have literally nothing to do with the DNC. I spend 0 minutes of my day thinking about the DNC. The creators do not toe any party line. How could we? There isn't a party line. Creators are absolutely allowed to speak out against the Democrats, and in fact, plenty do. And frankly, Chorus creators should and do criticize Democrats when they suck. And quite often, they do suck. I've seen posts saying that this is APAC funded, which couldn't be further from the truth. I'd venture to guess that most Chorus creators, myself included on both YouTube and Substack, have spoken out against the atrocities in Gaza. Lorenz says that the 1630 Fund is, quote, a powerful liberal dark money group. 1630 Fund is our fiscal sponsor. One of the largest documented donors to 1630 Fund is the same person funding Meteor's Reporters in Residence program, which Taylor Lorenz herself is a part of. And guess what her monthly stipend is? $8,000 per month. So she's criticizing an entity that is funded by someone that she is currently taking money from. I guess it's okay when Taylor Lorenz gets paid, but no one else.
And again, that sounds like a huge gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Shocking, damning. Taylor Lorenz, just, she's the only one that gets this money and everyone else gets criticized for it. And of course, all these shit lib, idiot, NPC, fucking DNC shill bots.
The chorus of them?
The chorus. All these fucking idiots saying the same shit. They all repeated it without actually investigating. Taylor quickly, does away with this absolute line of bullshit. She says the fact that you're willing to blatantly lie and fabricate nonsense when confronted with cold hard facts is revealing. I have never once taken money from a dark money org. I have zero ties to any dark money orgs and have never taken money from any org related to 1630. She says Brian is lying. I have zero financial ties to 1630 and neither does the Omidyar Network's LLC reporting program, which is not a money org, not a dark money org, and is nonpartisan. Brian took money and failed to disclose his funding. I didn't take dark money and did disclose my funding as a journalist, which again, that actually is a real program for actual journalists, not NPC DNC shills.
100%. And the last thing that Taylor Lorenz did, you guys can have all of I have a problem with Taylor Lorenz's position. I don't care about that, right? Like this idea that I have to like somebody to stand up for their reporting when I think it's accurate is crazy. But the other thing that I thought is really worth sharing is this right here, Gavin. She said, Omidyar Network receives no funding for the Reporters in Resistance program via the 1630 Fund or any other outside sources. Our programmatic work is supported entirely via our foundation and LLC. More information about where we focus and how we invest is publicly available on our site. And this was a direct response from the Omidyar Network, who Taylor Lorenz reached out for comment from to clarify, yes, Brian, you did smear her. Other people like Jessica Burbank leaned into the lie, but it was thoroughly debunked. And this was actually crazy because the Jessica Burbank clip that you can look at
Let's get into that. Yeah,
started this whole fucking beef right here. So yeah, and a lot of people, have a bunch of different feelings about this. I'm just focusing on this from the angle of the Wired story. I think that's the meat and potatoes that the Vanguard really cares about. And Taylor tweeted out, seemingly Jessica Burbank is the one who started the complete lie that I am somehow funded by 1630 Fund, or that Omidyar Network's reporting is ON has received zero funding from 1630. I have received zero funding from 1630. This is a disgusting thing to do to another reporter. So we already showed you the evidence from the Omidyar Network where they're like, hey, this is incorrect. We don't actually take this money. But what I thought was really, really hilarious is that when you look at this document, it's from ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's genuinely hilarious. The fact that she basically just asked ChatGPT, like, dig up some Oppo research on this fellow journalist of mine who I for some reason disagree with the reporting of. Now, here's where it gets tricky, guys, and I want to tread lightly because obviously Zach and I don't know the entirety of these details. I don't want to, say anything out of line at all, but it seems to me, Zach, that there's some beef between Jessica Burbank and Taylor Lorenz that has a lot more to do with other things, and that's kind of bleeding into this beef. Because as you can see here, there's a thread that got pretty weird. So Taylor obviously, posts this article. Jessica responds and says nearly every progressive org gets money from 1630. Down home, North Carolina, move on, People's Action, the org you get paid from, which again is not even fucking true. It's a total lie. I've never taken any money from them. You're doing shady and bad journalism. So even though Jessica's saying she doesn't get any of this chorus money, she's for some reason defending its existence and defending the people who do take the money. She then weirdly threatens Taylor Lorenz. I don't know all the details, but this appears to be a threat to me, a weird coded threat. Let's talk about what's low, Taylor. Should I tell others about you? So again, I didn't know what that was in reference to. I had no fucking clue what she's even talking about here. I'm like, wait, what? For one, I was a little bit surprised that Jessica wasn't on Taylor's side. I was like, why are you defending this? What is going on here? Why are you defending this fucking weird propaganda scheme? Taylor responds, I have no idea what you mean by should I tell others about you, but if you're referring to Alex, then go right ahead, or I'm happy to post about it. I tried to help you. I'm sorry I couldn't. I encourage victims to tell their stories, and they did. And I'm sorry that upset you. To which Jessica responded, why would you publicly tweet my abuser's name at me like this? I trusted you with my story, and you broke that trust so many times. I will be telling my own story on my own terms, on my own time, something you tried to take from me repeatedly. So again, I'm not actually 100% sure what all of this is about. I have no idea about any abuse that Jessica Burbank experienced. I feel horrible about that. Obviously, despite our disagreements, no one deserves to be in an abusive relationship or experience, partner abuse or anything like that, obviously. But I do. And again, I want to tread lightly, but I do kind of feel like Jessica was intentionally baiting Taylor Lorenz into bringing this up. She literally threatens her at the end and says, let's talk about what's low, Taylor. Should I tell others about you? So she's clearly saying, like, I'm going to take control of this narrative. I'm going to, give my side of the story and make you look bad. She's clearly baiting Taylor into bringing this exact subject up, assuming this is a subject that Jessica seems to be referencing. So I find it very bizarre. And again, I have no idea what happened to Jessica with this Alex person. But I don't really see how this is relevant to the situation. And it does kind of feel like a weird way to just drag Taylor Lorenz's name through the mud based on something that no one has any context into. And it's something that none of us can really have an opinion on because you're being so vague about.
Yeah, it was very strange to see that. And it did feel like obfuscating. And the one thing I'll contribute, because again, whatever happened between Jessica Burbank and Taylor Lorenz is not my place to comment on. I'm only here to talk about the reporting, which from every account that I've been through, I've looked at Ken Klippenstein's overview of it. People like Emma Vigeland, Matt, like people I really trust have also gone over this, and we've all kind of come to the same conclusion: is that none of this has been debunked. People keep saying, "Oh, it's been debunked," but it has not been, right? Taylor keeps coming with more and more receipts to justify her reporting. Wired has not walked anything back, and there's been no threat of legal action to Wired in the meantime, right? So none of those things have happened, which would certainly have happened, right?
Yeah. Which, as she talks about, in her video on the subject matter. We're not going to watch it, but I do highly recommend you guys take a look at this after we're off air, because it's a really incredible, basically video version of the article, but it also includes a lot of really damning details about Chorus and how, when Chorus launched, they actually used the likeness and the image of a bunch of creators who weren't even associated with them, including Kat Abu Ghazala, who's now running for Congress and who is very anti-Israel. They literally used her fucking image in the launch website. She had to then request that they take it down because she was like, I have no fucking connection to you. I'm not taking this money. I don't want my likeness being used to funnel donation. Yeah, because people were donating to this group based on the assumption that people like Kat and others who had to request their likeness also be removed, they were using them without permission. Right. So I highly recommend you guys watch this whole video. It also talks about how Chorus basically, they say, oh, like, we'll give you access to all these high level Democratic politicians, but that's actually not nearly as sweet of a deal as it sounds. And you basically have to check with Chorus before you arrange any interview, and like all these weird controlling machinations that make it sound like a total fucking nightmare, one that you'd only sign up for if you were in fact getting paid almost 10 grand a month. So watch the video, guys. It's really fucking good. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. As you guys can see here, Crystal did weigh in. She said, I see centrists are back to weaponizing identity politics in order to quash legitimate criticism. And yeah, I haven't even seen this one yet, but I guess that some people are trying to act like Taylor Lorenz is racist based on this report. And Zach, what was the exact claim being made?
Yeah, people are wanting to act like she's calling out, black content creators. And I think it's clear projection. And I think there's a lot of amplification by other like shit lib accounts that also want to protect their own ass and basically add some create a perverse justification for Taylor Lorenz to have done this when it was really just one of exposing dark money. Like the Too Raw, Too Real guy is like the definition of like a textbook shit lib. He made a meme that was like, oh, look, I'm Brianna Joy Gray going to like fucking work at McDonald's, and like,
oh yeah,
he was that guy, and like talking about how it was, the Green Party's fault that the fucking Kamala Harris campaign lost, and basically not doing any legitimate introspection in the aftermath of the election. That was when I first became aware of this guy, but he was a total fucking cheerleader for Kamala Harris. And I don't know anything about Elizabeth Booker.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, mostly we talked about the likes of David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen, who are about as white as you can fucking get. So I don't know how you could possibly spin this in a racial way to act like Taylor was going after black creators when the majority of them were white, as she mentions here. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was desperate, I think. And then people who are really invested in making Taylor Lorenz look like she's some fucking evil, crazy person or a liar or, not a real journalist or whatever, or a hateful person. It's a smear campaign is really what it is.
Yep. All right, here we go. Sorry, guys. Take a look. And again, I urge you guys to watch this entire video because even if you're, still a little bit confused by any of this, Taylor did a great job in the video breaking it all down. But yeah, I thought this was a good response to, some of that criticism.
Let me just also say that claiming journalists whose job it is to challenge power, investigate wrongdoing, and report on news happening on their beats have some sort of bad intentions is really poor form. The job of a journalist is to be annoying. It's to piss people off, and especially to piss off people in power, and to hold organizations to account. So I kept digging and talking to creators. I spoke to several creators who attended an early chorus activation at the Capitol for Trump's joint address to Congress. The influencers were brought to the Capitol by Chorus to create content promoting Democratic messaging. It was marketed to the liberal content creators as an opportunity to interview members of Congress. But when they showed up, it became apparent that Chorus hadn't actually booked interviews for anyone aside from Brian Tyler Cohen, who co-founded Chorus. One creator who attended the event told me, quote, it was essentially go to the Rayburn building and go trick-or-treating for interviews. It was so embarrassing, and it didn't put us in the position to make good content.
So yeah, I thought that was a great defense too of, the role of a journalist. A lot of people that are criticizing Taylor Lorenz are like, why aren't you celebrating this? Like, don't you want Democrats to win? And it's like, even if she did theoretically think that Chorus would somehow help Democrats win, her fucking job is not to be a pro-Democrat propagandist. Her job is to be a journalist, which, yeah, means sometimes ruffling feathers on the side of the aisle that you're also part of. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy to think that a role of a journalist, even a left-wing journalist, should only be to go after the Republicans and to never expose weird financial corruption on your side. Like, no, that's actually the most important shit, because as I keep saying, constructive criticism is actually what makes a movement stronger. Pointing this stuff out so we can actually address it and deal with it, that's what makes a movement stronger.
Yeah, I think a big problem that the broader left media landscape is having right now is like 90% of the people who are non-partisan hacks, people who aren't just dyed in the wool blue no matter whoers, have done a lot of checking out from the scene, right? So a large portion of the people who are coming to YouTube who want to engage in Democratic Party content, I think a lot of them do just want to hear like rah, the Democrats are right. Like they want to hear Democrat propaganda. And that's so pernicious because it erodes the responsibility and the duty of a journalist, which is to inform and, yes, at times to challenge, consensus, right? People have this belief system. That's fine. Taylor's going to introduce competing information to force you to challenge your own fucking position on this with facts and evidence. And people will say it's been debunked. It hasn't been debunked at all. That's why you haven't seen any actual debunking. You've just heard people say, this has been debunked. This is a smear campaign. That's what Donald Trump does when people accuse him of shit that's correct. And that's what really fries my fucking shit about this, guys. Everybody who took this money is behaving just like Donald Trump does when he gets caught with his fucking hand in the cookie jar. They're behaving just like MAGA does, and we have to be better than that. We have to be better than that. Okay? We cannot accept, hey, I want to be fed propaganda 24/7, 365. You have to want information that is correct. Otherwise, you are just as bad as MAGA. Let me say that again. You have to want information that is correct and not just information that makes you feel good. Not just information that reinforces your values. Not just information that, the Democrats are good. That's right about everything. Oh, I can't take it when anybody says anything bad about the Democrats. Okay, grow up then. Or go join fucking MAGA, because that's what people who have no belief system and just want to feel good do. Okay, but here on the left, we're actually supposed to stand for something. We're actually supposed to say, hey, we want to uplift the bottom and fucking bring down the top a little bit. Yeah, we want to create some equality for everyone. All right, we're not just going to say, yeah, let's take some bribes. That's convenient.
Yep, 100%, 100%.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there.